While we'd all love to be pro gamers capable of incredible no-death runs, chances are we're getting taken out at least once when we're playing video games. That said, it does take the edge off when it's funny though. Whether it's an unusual way to go, a death that came out of nowhere, or an unintentionally funny demise in what was probably supposed to be a dramatic moment, these were the deaths in games that had us more amused than disappointed. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 absurd ways to die in video games. Number 10. Spider-Man's awkward faceplant. Spider-Man 3. If we're gonna start anywhere with this list, it may as well be with a particular death so entertaining that it spawned a meme and has garnered over 10 million views since it was first published to YouTube 10 years ago. In an excellent example of a clip that gets better with every watch, in Activision's 2007 action-adventure Spider-Man 3, our titular hero finds himself in a burning building. Here, the player is called upon to execute a series of quick-time events, and successfully doing so will help Spidey navigate the flames and aid a woman calling for help who has a bomb strapped to her chest. After executing a couple of valiant leaps, failing the final QuickTime event will cause the following steps to happen in hilariously quick succession. The woman calls for help, you fail the QuickTime event, Spidey fails to land on his feet, fatally faceplanting into the floor from an 8 feet drop. The woman says, "I'm going to die," and then we smash cut to the exterior of the building as it explodes. Of special note here is the unlikelihood the fall would actually have killed Spider-Man, suggesting that maybe he just gave up on the whole thing. The voice acting, the flop to the ground, the pacing, just everything that came together to make this death is a work of art. Number 9. Petty theft. RPGs. We all have a tendency to get our kleptomania on in role-playing games, especially Bethesda RPGs. I mean, there's all this great stuff lying around and we're trying to save the world. What are we supposed to do? Pay for it? While it might make a lot of sense for guards or NPCs to try to kill you for stealing the crown jewels or swiping a merchant's stock right in front of him, sometimes the punishments don't seem to fit the crime. While I'm personally a steal anything that's not nailed down kind of RPG gamer, I do think there are limits on what's acceptable punishment. I mean, why would I be attacked by an entire town just for picking up a cup that's worth 1 gold from the local tavern? Just let me put it back. It's not worth dying over. Just tell us we've violated the law and we must pay a fine or go to jail. I was probably just trying to sit down in the chair 2 pixels south of said cup anyway. Or at least that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Number 8. Falling off anything higher than a footstool. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Fall damage is nothing new for any seasoned gamer. Even really new gamers will figure out quite quickly the general heights you will and won't be able to survive or take damage from in most games. Unfortunately, as I'm personally learning from my first playthrough right now, The Witcher 3 does not play by these rules. Despite being the baddest dude around, a literal mutant, and having incredible strength and powers, Geralt sure does have weak ankles. Whether it's a medium-height ledge, a shallow ravine, or a tumble down a set of stairs, there's no seemingly surmountable fall too small to stop our hero in his tracks. You can be as over-leveled in this game as all get out and thwack every gargantuan monster in sight, but I hope you're saving often because one little trip and that's it for the White Wolf. Curiously, the books that the game is based on suggest Geralt is able to fall from a great height and remain unscathed, so that makes the fall damage all the more absurd. It's still pretty funny though. Number 7. Sonic is OUTTA here. Sonic CD. In 1993, long before Ben Schwartz would voice the blue blur on the big screen, Sega released Sonic CD. The game offered up top-notch platforming shenanigans and the typical side-scrolling action you'd have come to expect. As Sonic, you'll take out enemies, collect rings, and clear levels as fast as you can. It shouldn't come as a surprise then that Sonic's gotta go fast, and he's not a fan of waiting around. While there are plenty of ways to hit a game over screen in the Sonic franchise, this one might well be the most absurd, but also one of our favorites. Leave Sonic hanging around too long without pausing and he straight up nopes out. He'll stand there tapping his shoe looking mighty pissed at you before wagging his finger and literally saying, "I'm out of here." He then jumps right out of the level to whatever exists beneath the Sonic level and you get a game over screen. This will only happen if you've left the dude waiting for over 3 minutes, so you can't say he's being totally unreasonable. Number 6. Leave the chickens alone. The Legend of Zelda. If you decide to take out your your rage on a chicken in The Legend of Zelda, it's a mistake you'll probably only be making once. That's because these chickens, or kakus as they're known in the game, have a serious taste for vengeance. Taking a swipe at any chicken will result in a pile of them launching at you and causing a massive amount of damage, often leading to Link's death. This is true of A Link to the Past right up to Breath of the Wild. Many things may change as Zelda games evolve, but the fact remains, don't mess with the chickens. It's an absurd way to go, but at least from the kaku's perspective, not an altogether unjust one. Number 5. Getting the Bends. The Dark Pictures anthology, Man of Medan. Man of Medan is part of the Dark Pictures anthology, made by creators of horror adventure heavyweight Until Dawn. If you know anything about either of those two games, it should come as no surprise that there are plenty of ways you can get your characters killed off. Much like in Until Dawn, you won't always immediately see the consequences of the choices you're called on to make throughout the game. In this example, a decision you'd make which you'd do without thinking in any other game does result in a character dying, but you won't know about it until the very end of the game. There's a premonition to warn you about this one, but early on Julia will be diving and you'll need to be careful not to surface too quickly, or she'll get decompression sickness leading to her death. Essentially, even though you quickly ascend through the water in every other game with no trouble, this one requires you to wait a while, otherwise you're in for a very unpleasant end game surprise. This one is super frustrating if you've managed to keep her alive through the entire rest of the game and every other threat there happens to be. So as I said, it's a bit silly, but also frustratingly realistic. Number 4. You need that to live. NieR Automata. You might have noticed in our earlier video on the subject we mentioned a certain death by fish consumption in NieR Automata. While that one is definitely deserving of a spot, there's another very entertaining death in the game that we wanted to highlight here. I mean, it's entertaining so long as you save the game before trying it out. NieR Automata has a clever system where you can swap out your android's chips to alter your perks, your HUD, and combat prowess. There's also a chip for your operating system, but given you're playing this game as an android, you're probably gonna want to keep that one in. If you decide to take it out or sell it, you'll hit a game over screen. Whether you've done this intentionally or unintentionally, you'll learn a hard lesson to keep the OS chip firmly installed if you want to keep playing the game. The fact that the game lets you take it out at all and subsequently get a game over is absurd, but the freedom in that is certainly part of why NieR Automata has the cult following it does. Number 3. Everything in moderation. The Sims 4. The Sims franchise has come a long way from setting off fireworks indoors, trapping your Sims in ladderless pools, and marrying rich only to close your new spouse in a windowless cube until they naturally die and leave you their riches. Everyone did that, right? Yeah? We're good? Okay, we're good. In The Sims 4, there are more ways than ever to kill off your little digital buddies, and while fire and drowning still do the trick, we can get a lot more creative than that. Perhaps one of the most absurd and mildly disconcerting is that Sims can become so playful that they become hysterical, at which point they can die from laughing too much. A little laughter is great, and the fun need is usually a tricky one to max out, especially after a long day at work. But it seems like you can have too much of a good thing. Alongside this death, you can also die of overexertion via carnivorous plant, too much time in the sauna, eating a pufferfish, getting swallowed by a Murphy bed, contracting rabid rodent fever from your guinea pig, or from sheer embarrassment. This is The Sims we're talking about, so even all of that is just the tip of the iceberg, but I think we can all agree this is a franchise that is a king of weird deaths. Number 2. Not so care package. Call of Duty. While we're on absurd ways to die, we should also include the truly embarrassing ways to die. First-person shooters and multiplayer games seem to set the scene best for this brand of death, so let's combine the two with Activision's Call of Duty franchise. Whether you've misjudged a grenade throw, launched off a rocket at your own feet, or dropped a care package on yourself, there are so many ways to brutally and publicly die in a multiplayer game. In the arena where everybody can watch you fail, it's doubly as upsetting to call in a care package to help out yourself and your team, only to dump the case on your own head. Boy, do I hope you have a good sense of humor here, otherwise that instant replay is gonna hurt all over again. Number 1. Tripping over a cat. King's Quest III to Heir is Human. For point-and-click adventures, old-school Sierra adventure games sure did love killing you off. We could and might at some point fill an entire list with the crazy ways you can help your protagonist pop 2 feet in the grave in these games, but here's one for the dog people. I'm a cat fan myself, but they sure can get underfoot, as is shown in King's Quest III, where one of the many absurd ways you can die is by tripping over a cat. As you wander down the stairs towards the lair of the evil wizard who's enslaved you, you can spy his black cat sitting smack bang in the middle of the stairway. This may seem pretty innocuous, except the cats are jerks, and no sooner have you walked a little too close to the troublesome feline than you take a Geralt-sized tumble to your death. The game thanks you for playing and suggests you be a little more careful next time. To be fair, the game does let you kick the cat earlier, so maybe we were asking for it. That's it for our list, but do let me know down in that comment section if you can think of any of the absurd ways that you've died in video games. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm @JessMcDonald, but make sure you do stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.